there is strong commentary that can be made on the fact of the role that television and social media plays in shaping visually how we are and how we are received as a culture and as a people. But being someone who studied media and been a part of the media for the last 30 some odd years, I always try to take all things in consideration. And one thing we have to always agree to in this space is that content is king. And when we say content is king, not the quality of the content, just content itself. Because the landscape has opened up so much, not only because of digital, but because of the digital effect of, say, television, the digital effect of, say, now audio, and sound. Whereas, especially with television, we're talking about only a couple of generations ago where we were fighting to get programming on 12 channels, max. In London, I think they had 4. Now we're dealing with 400 or 500. So when you're trying to fill that type of gap with that much space, content becomes king. Doesn't matter what the content is, we just need content to fill this time up because now we have this time and space. All that does is shift the dynamics of what we're seeing to a larger level, but it doesn't make it any different than what it was before. We speak to Stevie J and individuals like that and how he's represented and how he's looked at as somebody who may not be a positive image to the culture because of the way he behaves. What's different than looking at that and looking at Fred Sanford on Sanford and Son, and he's a junk man? You get what I'm saying? It's like, all right, we got one black man on television. We had Fred Sanford and James Evans. You know what I'm saying? James was hard to keep a job on Good Time, and Fred Sanford was a damn junk man. Now, they did have quality of character, but at the same time, why were we complaining about that then? We're saying, oh, that's a bad image on black men because it makes it look like all black men are either, can half-ass hold down the job, living in the projects, or the other one is living in the slums in El Segundo, with a son who's 80 years old and refuses to leave home and he's a junk man. Does that represent all of us? No, it doesn't. But that's the content we had in the day, that's the content we have now, but now we have more of it, so we think it's more reflective, when it's really not. From a percentage standpoint, it's the exact same. It's just the transferring of imagery. That's it. And I think we need to get outside of that because not that it's an equal balance, but whereas back in the day, to counter what James Evans represented, what Fred Sanford represented, we didn't have a Don Lemon. You get what I'm saying? We didn't have a Van Jones that we could turn to look at the counter what Stevie J is doing, and we have that now. And the problem is we tend to look at Stevie J and see he does this and not look at what else is right there on the same thing. Because now we have 400 channels as opposed to 4. So while Stevie J could be wilding out doing whatever, we got Van Jones who's doing his thing right in front of our face. Let's recognize that at the same time and understand that there is a balance, but back in the day there wasn't a balance. We can't act like everything on social media is a negative portrayal of us and the culture. It's not. We have things that are on the other side. It depends on what we decide to focus on. And a lot of times we are led by who we are told to focus on. So when it becomes a predominant conversation that we'll look at the black negativity of everything on social media and the black negative of social media, we as a society choose to look at that as opposed to do a little bit of layering. We can say, well, hell, there's some other stuff going on right here. So why am I following so-and-so when I could be following so-and-so? Why am I paying attention to this when I could be paying attention to that? It's all right there. It's just a matter of us being smarter and wanting to be smarter in the game and recognize what else is out there as opposed to looking at the negative that is, not doing what's in the best interest of our culture and who we are as a people. I'm saying social media is just like anything else when we're dealing with forms of communication. At this point, there's a lot of it out there because there's so much space now. Digital space and technical space. It's all there for us to take advantage of. And one may outweigh the other, but we act as if nothing is on the other side of this and this is all existing. That's wrong. That's totally wrong. It's on us to understand the landscape that we're dealing with and focus on both sides of it. And I get how social media and television and other forms of entertainment can be escapes. I get that. It's always been that way. You know, you could tell that's why Star Wars is always going to outsell documentaries. People don't want to deal with real life all the time. They want to escape, so they're going to go to something that doesn't exist anymore to get away from their everyday lives. That's always going to be that way. But my thing is that at what point do you start using these forms of communication? You start using the digital and technological space. You start using the internet. You start using television. You start, using internet for sound as far as audio is concerned. You start using radio. You start using, podcasts, whatever you want to do. When do you start using that to make yourself a better person? When do you start using these forms of communication, not just for escape routes, but to grow? When you start making those decisions, and that's on us. That's not on the people telling the stories. That's on us as a society, where we say, you know what? I'm going to watch an hour of Love and Hip Hop, but at the same time, I'm going to watch an hour of whatever on the other end to balance that out. I'm gonna watch 2 hours of this, and I'm gonna watch an hour of this. When can you use these things to grow and learn? And that's on us. My biggest concern with social media is just how people receive it and what they want to get out of it. I'm in no position, I don't think any of us are in a position to make judgment on how people decide to intake communication. That's on them. If we allow or look at what happened in the last election and allow it to happen again, I can't be mad at the outside sources who were able to run game on us. That's on us. First time we didn't know it was coming, we had no idea. But this time if it comes back around, if 2020 runs out and we get the same results, and the same results meaning not the outcome, but outside sources came in and shaped the way we participated in an election that decided how our government is going to function for the next 4 years. If we allow that to happen, why should I be mad at the outside sources? What did Ice Cube say? You knew the game and you still ended up on your back. So I can't be mad at that. We know better. We should know better. We have to find ourselves in a position to make better choices. So I can't be mad at social media. Look, social media came into this game and created itself as a form of communication without any guidelines. That was it. It was the Wild Wild West from the very beginning. It's always going to be that way because it got ahead of any type of government regulation. And to me, we are a very savvy society. I'm not going to, we do ignorant things as people individually, but as a society, I think we're very savvy. So I think we're smart enough to basically decipher what's good, what's bad, what's healthy, what's unhealthy for us individually and us as a society, and we choose and function at will. Look, man, I'm old enough to have seen, I don't want to say watch. I'm old enough to have watched what television has become and what scared the shit out of people with television back in the day. You get what I'm saying? Television was the devil when it started. The only good thing that I remember ever hearing anybody say that was ever on television started off with PBS and Sesame Street. That was the only form of education. That was the only thing we're going to learn on television, was that everything else was the devil. Television for the most part has grown into a very, very, very important, influential, and educational form of communication for society around the world. It's just a matter of how we as a consumer society intake it and what we decide to pay attention to the storytellers that are using this space to tell stories. So I'm not one that's gonna sit up here and panic and be like, oh my God, the sky's gonna fall because, social media and the digital space is so out of control. No, it's just a space to tell stories, and in some part, we as a savvy society are gonna have to choose and pick and choose of how we're going to allow that to dictate how we function.